I'm waiting till it clicks to 5:30 exactly. And it has. Do we want to leave those back doors open? Are we good with that? Okay. Excellent. So good evening. Good evening. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you. Can we turn this on? Is this too loud or is this good for you all? It's a little loud? We need to go louder. Okay. I will try to project into the microphone. So anyway, good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining us here in North Augusta, South Carolina, and also people virtually. Welcome to this public hearing hosted by the National Nuclear Security Administration. NNSA is the acronym most of you have probably heard, which is a semi-autonomous agency within the United States Department of Energy. I'm pleased to be here tonight. My name is David Abelson, and I've been asked to moderate tonight's hearing. For context, I'm an independent consultant, and among other things, I provide facilitation services to federal, state, and local governments. Of note and of importance, I believe, I've had no role in preparing the draft programmatic environmental impact statement for plutonium pit production that is the subject of tonight's hearing, and I do not otherwise work on this issue. My responsibility tonight is threefold. Number one, ensure the hearing is conducted respectfully. Two, that each speaker receives the allotted time. And three, that comments are heard without interruption. So, before the presentations begin, let me explain the purpose of tonight's hearing. In compliance with the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA is an acronym you might have heard, and the requirements of the settlement agreement, NNSA has prepared a draft PEIS for plutonium pit production at multiple sites. The notice of availability was published by the Environmental Protection Agency in the Federal Register on April 17, 2026. And that notice started a 90-day public comment period. Comment period closes at midnight on July 16th, 2026. Now earlier in the process, on April 10th, NNSA headquarters issued a press release. The Los Alamos National Laboratory issued notice via a system called GovDelivery, and Savannah River Site issued notice via an environmental bulletin. Now, in addition to tonight, of all you here in person, tonight's hearing, as well as the one in Santa Fe on May 14th, those are also available for online participation. And as you can see up here on the screen, we do have people participating online tonight. Those who are online, your microphones currently are not muted, so please mute them yourselves so that we don't have any cross conversation and thus create some confusion and cut into what people are saying. Public comment period for this hearing is going to be recorded, and that's to prepare a transcript of the hearing. Responses to comments and any revisions to the PEIS will be included in the final PEIS. Okay, this slide here is for all of those who are joining via Teams. So all of you in the room, this is not for you. If you're joining via Teams and you want to see closed captioning, what you do is you select More on the toolbar, and then Language and Speech, and then turn on live captions. And captions are available in languages other than English. So let me repeat that. To turn on live captions, select More, Language and Speech, and turn on live captions. And you can also adjust your screen layout, select View on the toolbar, and choose your preferred layout, including full screen or focus on content. Again, View and choose your preferred layout. Do we have anybody joining us via phone? Okay, so this is for everyone joining via the phone. The presentation tonight is available on the DOE NEPA website at the Environmental Impact Statements page. That website address is, and I'm going to pause here for a second in case anybody on the phone needs to grab a pen. It is www.energy.gov/NEPA, NEPA spelled NEPA/NEPA-documents. So again, www.energy.gov/NEPA/NEPA-documents. And once you're on that page, there's a search bar, and put in the code 0573. Okay. Here's tonight's agenda, and let me review it for people who are joining by phone or if there's anybody here who has trouble seeing the screen. The presentation portion of the hearing will last approximately 30 minutes. Tim Fisher, who is NNSA Savannah River Field Office Deputy Site Manager, will provide opening remarks about the site mission and the role of pit production in that mission. Jade Fortner, who is from NNSA's Office of Plutonium Monitorization in Washington, D.C., is the NNSA NEPA document manager for the PEIS, and she will summarize the draft PEIS. Comments will begin after the presentation is complete. Now, this hearing is scheduled to conclude at 8 p.m. local time, and it is now 5:35 local time. Tonight's meeting is a public hearing. Its purpose is for NNSA to summarize the draft PEIS and to hear your comments. There will be no question and answer tonight. So, in addition to Tim Fisher and Jade Fortner, Kristen Doors, the NNSA NEPA Compliance Officer, is also here to hear your public comments. And when you're speaking from the podium, Kristen will be one of the three people in front of you. Now, once Mrs. Fortner has concluded her presentation, I'll explain how to submit oral and written comments during the hearing and through the end of the comment period. So let me pause there and let me turn it over to Tim Fisher, Deputy Site Manager for the Savannah River Field Office.
Hello. Thank you for coming this evening. This is a hearing on the draft programmatic environmental impact statement for pit production, both here and at Los Alamos. I am, as David mentioned, I'm Tim Fisher. I'm the Deputy Site Manager here at SRS. As most of you know by your presence here, NEPA encourages public participation in our federal decision-making process, and it's designed to help the public officials making decisions that could affect the environment have a greater understanding of public concerns, comments, and things that we should be considering as we go through. Therefore, we welcome and we encourage your participation in this hearing and in any of the other 4 that we're having on this particular document. The pit production is proposed to be a multi-site effort to produce pits and to modernize the nuclear stockpile. SRS plays an important role in this mission, in part because of the site's long history in producing nuclear materials for the stockpile, namely plutonium and tritium. The proposal evaluated in the 2020 SRS pit production EIS and now in this programmatic EIS would refurbish the mixed oxide fuel fabrication facility, a building, into a state-of-the-art plutonium processing and pit production facility using the established infrastructure as well as the experienced, skilled personnel at the Savannah River Site. I'm the federal official hosting this evening's hearing, and Jade Fortner, whom you'll hear from in a moment, will present a summary of the draft EIS and the information included in that programmatic EIS. Again, I want to thank you for joining us here this evening, both in the room and online, and I encourage your participation, your continued interest in this program, and we look forward to receiving your comments. Jade?
Thank you, Tim. Hello and welcome to this hearing. My name is Jade Fortner, and I am joined today by Kristen Doors. Kristen and others in NNSA provided guidance during the NEPA process and independently evaluated the document and coordinated its review with other federal officials. This interaction included DOE's Office of Environmental Management and other NNSA offices across the complex. Your input and comments on the draft PEIS will be considered by NNSA and allow us to improve the description and analysis of alternatives, as well as their potential impacts in the final PEIS. On the next slide, I will explain what NEPA evaluations have previously addressed pit production and why NNSA is preparing this programmatic EIS. From 1952 to 1989, plutonium pits for the nuclear weapons stockpile were manufactured at the Rocky Flats plant in Golden, Colorado. Since that production mission ended, DOE's NNSA has evaluated the pit production mission several times over the last 30 years. The reviews have included both programmatic and site-specific reviews and decisions for Los Alamos and the Savannah River Site. As shown on this slide, site-specific reviews were prepared for pit production at Lannel in 1999, 2008, 2020, and also the recently issued 2026 Lannel Site-Wide EIS, or SWICE. These reviews evaluated production up to 80 pits per year at Lannel. A site-specific review of production at SRS was finalized in 2020. That EIS evaluated production of 50 to 125 pits per year at SRS. NNSA has conducted programmatic NEPA reviews that included pit production in both 1996 and 2008. In 2019, NNSA prepared a supplement analysis on the 2008 PEIS, which evaluated the concurrent pit production at Lannel and SRS. In 2020, NNSA published amended programmatic records of decision, or RODs, on the supplement PEIS that decided to produce 30 pits per year at Lannel and 50 pits per year at SRS. They also published site-specific RODs for both Lannel and SRS. After the publication of the 2020 RODs, plaintiffs litigated NNSA's decision. The result of this litigation was a settlement agreement, which was signed in early 2025 and precipitated the preparation of this PEIS. The settlement agreement includes several stipulations that are relevant to the PEIS currently under development. These include a scoping period that lasts for at least 45 days after the scoping meetings are completed. The scoping meetings were held online on May 27th and 28th of 2025. The scoping period ended on July 14th. The comment period on the draft PEIS started on April 17th and is required to be 90 days. This establishes July 16th as the last day to submit comments on the draft PEIS. This 90-day period is twice the statutory limit, or minimum, my apologies, for the comment period duration. The agreement also identified the specific hearing locations as listed on this slide. NNSA is holding hearings in each of these 5 locations during the comment period. The agreement also stipulates that the final PEIS and ROD must be published within 2.5 years, or July of 2027. And until then, there are certain activities that are not allowed at SRS. For instance, NNSA cannot introduce special nuclear material into the main process building of SRPPF. NNSA cannot install classified equipment in SRPPF or begin construction of the waste characterization lab. This graphic represents the current PEIS schedule milestones. We are currently in the 90-day review period for the draft PEIS. NNSA plans to publish the final PEIS and ROD in early 2027 ahead of the July deadline. The main purpose of an EIS is to evaluate the potential impacts of a proposed action and its alternatives. The proposed action in this PEIS is to produce plutonium pits at the required quantities to meet national security requirements. These requirements can be found in 50 United States Code 2538A, and currently states that NNSA should demonstrate the ability to produce 80 pits per year by 2030. The statute also specifically identifies SRPPF and Lannel's PF4 for production. The alternatives include a no-action alternative, which limits production to Lannel, but also allows continued construction at SRS. Multi-site production alternative and a single-site production alternative, which evaluates potential future decisions to limit pit production to only LANL or SRS, but not both. Consideration of pit production at sites other than LANL or SRS are not a reasonable alternative because it would be contrary to the current statute and could not be achieved within the congressionally mandated schedule. The PEIS presents potential impacts for an analytical period of 50 years. LANL is one of 3 national security laboratories with responsibility for assessing the safety, security, and reliability of the U.S. nuclear weapons stockpile. The U.S. government has been operating at this site since 1943. The laboratory employs over 16,000 people, has an annual budget of over $4 billion, and occupies about 40 square miles. This graphic is an aerial photo of a portion of TA 55. The large building in the center is PF4, where the majority of pit production operations take place. The multi-story building in the upper right corner is the Radiological Laboratory Utility Office Building, or RULAB, which supports pit production as well. NNSA recently published the 2026 LANL SWICE. All of the actions included in the no action alternative of this pit production PEIS related to LANL were evaluated in the SWICE and included in the LANL SWICE ROD. Pit production is only a subset of the activities evaluated in the LANL SWICE. Some examples of pit production related activities that will be implemented at LANL include the production of 30 pits per year with a surge capacity of 80, construction of office buildings, security facilities, cafeterias, roads, parking, and additional transuranic waste staging areas. Construction of the Savannah River Site was authorized in 1950 by President Truman. The site is an industrial complex responsible for supporting our nation's nuclear deterrent, preventing nuclear weapon proliferation, environmental stewardship and cleanup, waste management, and disposition of nuclear materials. Examples of NNSA's production mission at SRS include the tritium operations and extraction, preparing for pit production, and surplus material disposition. SRS employs over 13,000 federal contractors and staff with an annual budget just under $4 billion. SRS is over 310 square miles and is flooded. The graphic shown on the slide depicts the layout of the SRPPF complex in F area, one of the industrialized areas in the center of SRS. F area is located over 6 miles from the western site boundary at the Savannah River. NNSA's published SRS pit production EIS and subsequent ROD in 2020 were published by NNSA. This ROD supports repurposing the mixed oxide fuel fabrication facility into SRPPF and the construction of several support facilities in F area. As mentioned previously, the construction at SRS is ongoing and has been evaluated as part of the no action alternative in the PEIS. Although operations of the facility cannot begin until after a ROD has been published on this PEIS in accordance with the settlement agreement. This slide identifies the environmental resource areas that were analyzed in the PEIS. These resources were also addressed in the 2026 LANL SWICE and the 2020 SRS pit production EIS. The current NEPA statute and DOE implementing procedures include a page limit for EISs. The PEIS complies with this page limit. Chapter 4 of the PEIS includes separate sections for each resource area impacts for both LANL and SRS. It also includes a section that provides complex-wide impacts that could be additive for multi-site concurrent pit production. These impacts primarily focus on transportation and waste management. To define the no-action alternative, NNSA has selected those actions that have been approved and included in previous RODs. At LANL, this includes upgrading PF4, additional offices, cafeterias, security facilities, and training centers, true waste storage areas, production of at least 30 pits per year with a surge capacity to 80 pits per year. The no-action alternative at SRS includes construction of the facilities described in the 2020 SRS EIS. NNSA cannot bring nuclear materials into SRPPF or construct specified support facilities until after a ROD is published on this PEIS. Therefore, these activities are not included in the no-action alternative. Under the multi-site alternative, NNSA would produce pits concurrently at LANL and SRS. At LANL, pit production is assumed to range from 10 to 80 pits per year, and at SRS, the PEIS evaluates production of 50 to 125 pits per year. At the maximum annual production rates analyzed, NNSA could produce a total from both sites of up to 205 pits per year. Analyzing a range of pit production capacities provides flexibility in the event of pit production requirement changes. The PEIS analyzes a single-site alternative in the event that multi-site pit production is no longer needed or desired in the future. For example, funding constraints might force NNSA to produce pits at a single site. A single-site alternative at LANL would be the same as the no-action alternative. A single-site alternative at SRS assumes the production of 50 to 125 pits per year at only SRS with minimal pit production at LANL. With pit production only at SRS, NNSA would not produce pits for the stockpile at LANL, but would maintain the existing LANL pit production capability in standby. In this mode, LANL would produce a minimal number of pits, for example, 10 pits per year, to maintain production competency. Plutonium research and development, surveillance, testing, and other plutonium missions would continue at LANL as these activities are independent of pit production. Last year, NNSA established specialized teams to evaluate aspects of the pit production process at SRS and LANL to identify potential enhancements that could improve the overall pit production mission. As an outcome of these reviews and other NNSA considerations, there are opportunities for enhancements that NNSA is considering for future implementation at one or both sites. Descriptions of these enhancements are provided in Section 2.7 of the PEIS. Each of the resource area impact sections in Chapter 4 include a discussion of how these enhancements could change the impacts of the proposed action, if at all. Some examples include increasing the plutonium inventory limit at RULAB to allow for some activities currently performed at the Chemistry and Metallurgy Research Building to be performed instead in TA 55. Using commercially available mobile waste compactors at LANL or SRS to size reduce true waste before sending it to WIP, and using the glove boxes and facilities in SRS's K area that were initially planned for surplus plutonium disposition to supplement capabilities at SRPPF for preparing purified plutonium. These next two slides provide a broad overview of potential impacts and a comparison between the sites. A tabular comparison of each alternative by site, by resource area can be found in section 2.9 of volume 1 and in the summary of the PEIS. The permanent land development dedicated to pit production at LANL and SRS is similar in that sites require about 70 acres of facilities and infrastructure. The air pollutant emissions would be similar for both sites and well below the de minimis standards. The potential radiological air emissions would be very small for both sites and would contribute much less than 1% of the current radiological releases at LANL and SRS. From a workforce standpoint, construction activities at SRS would be higher in the short term than at LANL. However, both sites would potentially add over 2,000 operational workers. Radiological transportation of nuclear materials and waste would use the nation's highways. Even at the highest production rates, transportation impacts on crews and the public along the transportation routes would be relatively small. For instance, incident-free transportation would add less than 1% of additional annual risk of a latent cancer fatality in the public population. The additional accident risk, taking into account the probability of a severe accident, would statistically represent about 1 fatality every 33,000 years. For comparison, there would be about 0.06 potential traffic fatalities per year from non-radiological accidents, or about 1 every 17 years. This slide presents the estimates for radiological waste volumes generated for the range of production capacities. Most low-level waste from LANL would be disposed of at the Nevada National Security Site. Most low-level waste from SRS would be disposed of on-site in E area. Adequate capacity exists at both locations. Most mixed waste would be disposed of at a licensed commercial disposal facility. Again, there is adequate capacity for this waste. True waste is disposed of only at the Waste Isolation Pilot Plant in New Mexico. WIP is permitted under the WIP Land Withdrawal Act with volumetric and radioactivity limits. DOE's Office of Environmental Management operates WIP and reports annually on the amount of true waste projected to be disposed of. For operations meeting the current pit production statute of 80 pits per year, the annual amount of true waste generated could be disposed of within the current volume limit. Ultimately, as pit production proceeds, whether at single or multiple production sites, NNSA and DOE EM would monitor the annual projections for future true waste generation related to pit production and complex-wide. DOE's NNSA would take proactive measures to stay within the existing limits established at WIP. An example of these measures could include waste compaction. If, in the future, DOE determined that further regulatory actions for true waste disposal would be required, additional NEPA review would be performed. For human health impacts from normal operations, the PEIS demonstrates that doses to the off-site public would be a very small increase to the current annual reported exposure to the maximally exposed individual, or MEI, and the collective population within 50 miles. In fact, the addition would be less than 1%. The PEIS presents potential accidents that could occur at both sites and potential increase in accident risk. Accident risks to the population at both sites are very small. The higher risk values from SRS would be within a population of over 1 million people within 50 miles of the site. The PEIS also discusses potential intentional destructive acts. Section 4.3 of the PEIS presents the potential for impacts from operations at one site to be additive or combined with impacts of operations at the other site. If operating concurrently, in most cases, these impacts would not be additive. For instance, noise impacts at Lanel would not impact noise at the Savannah River Site. However, because transportation of radiological materials and waste would use the nation's highways, and some may be received at the same locations along the same roads, those impacts could be additive. Additionally, because these wastes may be disposed of at the same location, the impacts related to waste disposal capacity could also be additive. The PEIS addresses these potential impacts. This concludes my presentation about the draft PEIS. I will now turn control of the hearing back to David. Thank you for your time and your participation.
Thank you, Jade, and thank you, Tim. So a couple of things. I see people taking pictures of the slides. They will be posted on the DOE NEPA website, so you can get good, clear. I thought they were up already, but apparently we're still checking on it. Apparently they may not be up quite yet, but they will be. Let me give you the address where you can find those. And I said it earlier for people on the phone, but I just want to make sure that if people want to find that, it's www.energy.gov/NEPA/NEPA-documents and put in the code 0573. So I've seen a lot of you taking photos. You'll get a much better version than your photographs. So tomorrow morning? Okay, they will be posted tomorrow morning. Okay. So it's on the Department of Energy NEPA website. It'll be tomorrow morning. So now we're going to begin the formal public comment session. My job right now is to explain the process before we actually start with it. The NNSA officials, you've met two of the three, are here to listen. Now there's three ways that you can submit comments. First of all, oral comments tonight, either from the podium or if you're joining us online through your phone or through your computer. You can also submit comments, the forms that are at the back of the table there, and then you will also be able to submit written comments by email, and I'm going to give you that email in a second, and also the U.S. mail at the contact information on the slide and on the NEPA website. So for email, the address is pitpeis@nnsa.doe.gov. So you can submit them that way. Comments have to be postmarked or submitted by midnight on July 16th, 2026. And must, in order to be considered for final preparation of the final PEIS. And it says on the website, and I've been told as well, that late comments will be considered to the extent practicable. Now, all comments, whether it's oral or written, will receive equal consideration. Please be advised, and this is important, that your entire comments, including any personally identifiable information, such as your name or where you live, may become publicly available. If you would like NNSA to withhold your name or other identifying information, state that request at the beginning of your comments, whether that's here in person or in writing. And anonymous comments may also be submitted. Now, for the people in the room, obviously there was an open house earlier. The conversations that you had during that open house are not recorded, and therefore they're not part of the formal record. So if you want those views considered, please restate them tonight or submit them in writing. Okay, a couple more things. Let me explain the oral comment process. And you can see my colleague here, he's ready to get involved in part of it. So for those in the room here, you have to sign up at the registration table. And so that's what he has here. Staff is going to provide me a list of the speakers. I'll explain the online comments here in a moment. To allow as many speakers to speak as possible, oral comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Now, are individual comments. You cannot pool your time or transfer your time to another person. Now, we know 3 minutes is brief. So detailed comments should also be submitted in writing so that the full record reflects your views. And if time remains tonight after the first round of speakers have been heard, additional comments may be accepted. So for those in the room, we're going to have, Joe's going to be up front with time cards displaying how much time you have left in your remarks. Yellow means 30 seconds ago, the pink means time is up. And I will ask you then to conclude your remarks. For those online, I'll let you know when you're running out of time. Okay, so speakers are going to be called on in the order in which they signed up or raised their hands online. And we're going to try to get as many people to speak as possible until 8 p.m., which is the advertised time that the meeting will end. I'm going to call on 2 or 3 names at a time so that you know your time is upcoming, and then I will call on you to come to the podium or to speak from your computer. Please begin, this is important, please begin by stating and spelling your name and the name of any organization you officially represent. Once you provide that information, then your 3 minutes will start. NNSA asks that comments address the analysis contained in the draft PEIS. Now we know going into this that there are a lot of strong opinions about this plan and about nuclear weapons in general. This hearing exists. The reason we're having this hearing, the reason it was so requested, is to have NNSA be able to hear your comments on the draft PEIS. My job, as I stated earlier, is to manage the hearing to ensure everyone has the opportunity to comment in an orderly and in a respectful setting. Now, for those joining on Teams, the way you speak, you will select raise hand icon on the toolbar to indicate you wish to comment, and you can see some people have done that already. When you're called on, unmute your microphone using the toolbar icon or in the participant panel. And for those on the phone, you dial *5 to raise your hand, and then when I call on you, you dial *6 to unmute the line. And it might take a moment for all of this to get worked out once I call on someone. Once you're unmuted, like people in the room here, please state and spell your name and then begin your comments. So, we're now at the beginning of the formal comment session. Tonight's federal official, as Tim announced, is Tim Fisher. Are there any questions about tonight's process? Just the process, not anything else regarding the PEIS. Yes, please.
Will the oral comments also be available to us to go back and listen to? No.
No. Yes, Tom.
You said that comments have to be emailed or mailed. I have them tonight. Can you tell them? You can give them to me.
Yeah, you can give them to one of the NNSA officials. The 3 that are in front of you, Tim, Kristen, and Jade will take those for you. Anything else about comment period tonight? Okay, so what I'm going to do is we have a lot of names here. I am going to, okay, so we got names. What I'm going to do is this. I'm going to start in the room here, and then I'm going to do some people in the room, and then we'll go online, and we'll go back and forth, but I'm not going to do a one-and-one. I'm going to block them. So, and I apologize in advance if I mispronounce your name. I apologize. So, first up is we'll have Angie Cox, and then Robbie Bennett, and then Tara Carroll. So, Angie, you are the first contestants here.
My name is Angie Cox, A-N-G-I-E-C-O-X, and I am here on behalf of the Augusta Metro Chamber of Commerce. Good evening. My name is Angie Cox, and I serve as President and CEO of the Augusta Metro Chamber of Commerce. The Augusta Metro Chamber of Commerce serves to represent the business community throughout the CSRA on matters of local, state, and federal policy, and for many years has served as advocate in support of the missions at Savannah River Site. These positions of advocacy have included the endorsement of NNSA's plans to utilize SRS as a secondary site for pit production by converting the mixed oxide fuel fabrication facility. The Chamber provided comments to that effect when NNSA published its intent of the pit production PEIS in May of last year. This evening, I am here to endorse the findings of the draft PEIS, which recommends NNSA's multi-site alternative as the preferred alternative based on national policy and considerations of environmental, economic, technical, and other factors. Compared to either a no-action alternative or a single-site alternative, the choice of utilizing both Los Alamos National Lab and Savannah River Site for pit production by leveraging their respective capacities and infrastructure is the most feasible in its evaluation. There's no doubt that Savannah River Site can execute this new mission given the talent, expertise, and operational experience it has demonstrated for 75 years. Its track record in executing its tritium mission, as well as decades of the safe handling, processing, and disposal of nuclear materials, places SRS at the pinnacle of NNSA's assets and ready to do its job. As a regional advocate, Augusta Metro Chamber of Commerce stands ready as a leader in the business community in continuing to support the establishment of a superior workforce and the community infrastructure needed to ensure the success of this new mission. Our organization, along with many others in the region, are dedicated to programs that will continue to expand the workforce pipeline and work with local and state political leadership in maximizing community assets such as housing and quality of life that ensure our region is a magnet for workforce and academic pursuits in the nuclear industry. In conclusion, we believe the production of plutonium pits at the congressionally mandated rate utilizing multi-site alternatives such as SRS is in the best interest of our region and our country, and we strongly support the findings of the draft PIS and appreciate the opportunity to offer out comments this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Robbie Bennett.
Robbie Bennett, R-O-B-B-I-E, B-E-N-N-E-T-T, representing the Savannah River Site Community Reuse Organization. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Robbie Bennett. I am the President and CEO of the Savannah River Site Community Reuse Organization. I'm here today representing our Board of Directors, which is governed by 22 board members representing business, government, and academia. Those board members represent Georgia and South Carolina. The CRO is a 501c3 organization charged with developing and implementing a comprehensive strategy to diversify the economy in our designated 5-county area. Our 5 counties are Allendale, Barnwell, Aiken counties, Richmond County, and Columbia County on the Georgia side. A core aspect of our mission is to support new missions at Savannah River Site and ensure Savannah River maintains its role as part of the nation's national security structure. There are very few sites in this country that is as well positioned as Savannah River to take on a mission like the plutonium pit production facility. On behalf of our board of directors, I want to express our support for the plutonium pit production here at SRS. Let me tell you a little bit why. For 75 years, Savannah River Site has been a cornerstone of this region, not just as a major employer, but as a trusted partner in safety, service, and progress. From Aiken to Augusta, from our rural communities to the urban core, we have witnessed firsthand how the people of Savannah River have quietly and consistently helped keep our country safe. For many in our region, there is a silent pride knowing the role our area plays in national security. That is something that needs to be spoken very loud and very proud. Supporting a defense mission is something our region knows well. One example, Savannah River has carried out the tritium mission for decades, managing nuclear materials with precision and care. The contractors and employees have done so while maintaining a steadfast commitment to environmental stewardship, supporting our schools and communities, and investing in our communities. We see this new mission as more than just a national security imperative. We see it as an opportunity to build on our legacy of excellence, an opportunity to bring in new jobs, an opportunity to bring in new skills and new investments to the region, and to continue changing this region for the better. In 2024 alone, Savannah River Site supported local business throughout the Georgia, South Carolina area to the tune of over $438 million. That's livelihood for a lot of people in this region. The goal for us is making sure we reinforce the vital role Savannah River plays to our economy. The plutonium pit mission serves at Savannah River comes with a promise of significant economic growth. We've heard over 2,000 jobs. That's not counting the thousands of construction jobs coming in that are long-term here for the duration. Okay, he's not calling me yet, so I'm going to keep going. That being said,
I was trying to, if you could wrap it up, please. I got muted.
yes. So that being said, we are proud of Savannah River. We're proud of the opportunities, and we truly do support this because this site makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Tara Carroll, and after Tara, we have Joanne Sweeney, Tom Clements, and Glenn Carroll. So Tara, please.
Tara Carroll, T-E-R-R-A-C-A-R-R-O-L-L, North Augusta Chamber of Commerce. Good evening. My name is Tara Carroll, President and CEO of the North Augusta Chamber of Commerce. I'm here to offer comments in support of the Savannah River Plutonium Processing Facility mission at the Savannah River Site. The North Augusta Chamber of Commerce represents businesses, employers, nonprofit organizations, and community partners across our region. Our mission is centered on strengthening the business community through advocacy, education and workforce development, engagement, and leadership. With that perspective, we recognize the importance of this mission not only to our local economy, but to our nation's security. The Savannah River Site has served this country for more than 75 years. For generations, SRS employees have carried out complex national security and environmental management missions with skill, discipline, and a strong safety culture. That history matters. It gives our community confidence that the site has the experience, infrastructure, and workforce capability to support this mission in a safe and environmentally responsible manner. The Savannah River Plutonium Processing Facility is part of a national defense mission that is imperative for our country. Modernizing our nuclear security enterprise and restoring the nation's ability to produce plutonium pits is a critical enterprise, and restoring the nation's ability to produce plutonium pits is a critical component of strategic deterrence. At a time when global threats are increasing and our adversaries are advancing their capabilities, the United States must maintain a secure, reliable, and resilient nuclear deterrent. We also recognize that this mission represents a true national partnership, leveraging the talent and expertise of both the Savannah River Site and Los Alamos National Laboratory. SRS brings decades of experience in nuclear materials handling, plant operations, tritium support, waste management, and the repurposing of existing facilities for new missions. Those strengths make this region well-positioned to help meet the needs of the nation. From an economic development standpoint, SRS continues to be one of the most significant engines of opportunity in South Carolina and Georgia. Its impact is felt through jobs, local purchasing, small business growth, education partnerships, and community leadership. In 2025 alone, SRS purchased more than $263 million in goods and services from local businesses in South Carolina and Georgia. The SRPPF mission is already creating construction and operation opportunities, with thousands of construction jobs expected at peak at approximately 2,100 employees needed once operational. Just as important, the workforce investments required for this mission will strengthen the broader regional talent pipeline. The Chamber also values SRS as a community partner. Every day matters. Our nation must move forward with resilience and confidence. We are proud the Savannah River Site and this region are prepared to help meet that responsibility. Thank you for the opportunity to provide these comments.
Thank you. Joanna Sweeney.
Pardon? Okay. All right, my name is Joanne Sweeney, Joanne Sweeny, and I'm from Salty Nacoochee, Georgia, and I serve on the boards of Nuclear Watch South and the Generational Radiation Impact Project. I speak on the record for this hearing for the love of all our relations, my 13 grandchildren, and the future generations. My firstborn grandchild was 2 years old when he came with me to this space to oppose plutonium pit production 22 years ago. A true national security is the result of a healthy, well-educated citizenry focused on environmental restoration, clean water, and international cooperation for sustainable life on Earth for your family and mine. This PEIS lacks considering the environmental impact of using the nuclear weapons this corporate welfare scheme plans to produce. How do you justify stealing from our children to build unnecessary new nuclear weapons? I'll close with a song by Kenny Rosenbaum called Corporate America. Gonna kill little children, rape and rob the poor. We got plenty money, but we want some more. Gonna mine our coal, cut the timber too. Legislate laws if we need to. You get in the way, we'll bury you. There just ain't nothing that you can do. Just ain't nothing that you can do. Gonna kill little children, rape and rob the poor. If we want more money, we'll start a war. We'll bomb Iran, El Salvador too. Invade Honduras if we need to. You get in the way, we'll bomb you too. There just ain't nothing that you can do. Just ain't nothing that you can do. We got the big jet planes flying over your head. Got 100 million ways to see you dead. We just don't care if the children get fed. They're a renewable resource, so are you. Renewable, and you are too. We gotta learn, little children, love and help the poor. The love of money is a running sore. If we kill the ground and the water too, there won't be nothing that we can do. Won't be nothing that we can do. When the sun comes up and the moon goes down and stars they fade from the sky, listen with your heart, you can hear the sound on the wing of an eagle when she flies, when she flies. Sound on the wing of an eagle when she flies. Well, I guess it went out of tune, but anyway, thank you very much.
Tom Clements and then Glenn Carroll.
My name is Tom Clements, T-O-M-C-L-E-M-E-N-T-S, and I'm the director for the organization Savannah River Site Watch. Good evening, my name is Tom Clements, and I'm the director of SRS Watch, which is a public interest nonprofit organization. I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight. We are all here due to the efforts of public interest groups that brought a federal lawsuit in June 2021 demanding the programmatic EIS. Plaintiffs in the case include Savannah River Site Watch, the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition, Nuclear Watch New Mexico, represented here tonight, and Tri-Valley Communities Against a Radioactive Environment in Livermore, California, and me as an individual. The South Carolina Environmental Law Project did a superb job in representing us. Your attendance here is a tribute to the importance of the work of public interest groups in holding decision makers accountable. Without the groups who brought the PEIS lawsuit, none of us would be here right now. Thank you for being part of the PEIS process that we fought so hard for. In its ruling of September 2024, the court said, the court is unconvinced defendants took a hard look at the combined effects of environmental impacts of their two-site strategy. But even assuming they did, their decision not to prepare a supplemental EIS was arbitrary and capricious. The court mandated settlement agreement, which was mentioned, of January 2025 between plaintiffs and NNSA, clearly states the DOE and NNSA will conduct a new PEIS to address all the deficiencies identified by the court. So the question before us, did NNSA address all the identified deficiencies in the draft document, and will the final PEIS be adequate? I'm going to mention 6 deficiencies, then I'll close. No evaluation of environmental impacts of dumping low-level nuclear waste into unlined trenches at Savannah River Site. No review of transuranic waste storage capacity at SRS beyond the 2 to 3 year surge capacity. So what happens in the event that the WIPP disposal facility is closed for a lengthy period of time, which has happened? Lack of documentation by NNSA on the need for new plutonium pits, as research into the aging of plutonium pits is extremely tardy and woefully lacking. From a security, budget impact, or arms control perspective, production of 80 pits per year is a concern. But what, other than a nuclear arms race or profit, justifies 205 plutonium pits per year produced? This leads to more national insecurity, not security. The draft PEIS fails to analyze a true no-action alternative, which would be no new pit production. And finally, in the fiscal year 2027 DOE budget request, what justifies $2.5 billion for the SRS pit plant next year, or its $30 billion price tag, which is going to make this the most expensive building in U.S. history? I contend that the rush to spend these vast amounts of money is not justified, and as I said before, leads to more national insecurity. Thank you very much, and I'll turn my comments in for the record. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Glenn Carroll, and after Glenn, I'm going to go to a couple of people online. After Glenn will be Cassandra Fralix and Tayaba Sadig. I apologize if I got this wrong.
Thank you. My name is Glenn Carroll, G-L-E-N as in nuclear, N as in nuclear, Carroll, C-A-R-R-O-L-L. I'm coordinator of Nuclear Watch South, an all-volunteer statewide environmental organization based in Georgia. With me is my lovely assistant, Leah. Thank you. Oh, great, my glasses are fogged up. Okay, now I'm going to start. I've participated in every environmental impact statement about producing nuclear weapons since the United States' only plutonium pit factory was permanently shut down following the 1989 FBI raid on Rocky Flats for environmental crimes. The fallout from revelations about Rocky Flats was far-reaching. It prompted the shutdown of all 5 plutonium and tritium production reactors at Savannah River plant and exposed the extent of environmental contamination and vast inventory of lethal radioactive waste still needing to be addressed. Thank God and the Nixon administration for NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act, for providing this legal forum for citizen review input on major project proposals. NEPA mandates a transparent environmental impact statement process to create a comprehensive document required to analyze all foreseeable impacts of a proposed project. Now, thanks to NEPA, We, the people, are being consulted about nuclear weapons manufacturing. In stark contrast to the U.S. Congress, which allocated $2 billion to the Manhattan Project, employing 600,000 people without any knowledge whatsoever that they were funding the development of nuclear weapons. Our draft PEIS appears to have been contrived to support the conclusion that it's A-OK to manufacture plutonium pits, stating repeatedly its reliance on a congressional mandate. But NNSA's approach misses both the spirit and the letter of NEPA. Congress, as the people's elected leadership, must have top-quality analysis to comprehend the true consequences of resuming plutonium pit production. For example, in response to an EIS for a modern pit facility at SRS in 2004, Congress defunded the project. Significantly, the draft plutonium pit production facility, PEIS, lacks analysis of the environmental impacts of using the product that it says can be produced with acceptably low environmental impact. But we all know that plutonium-triggered nuclear bombs have appalling environmental impacts by design. Nuclear weapons literally threaten the existence of our home planet, the only planet we know for certain even has life, and which contains every single thing that we know and every single thing that we don't know. Therefore, the PEIS must analyze using nuclear weapons that contain the plutonium pits that would be produced. The PEIS must also include a no-action alternative to quit the pursuit of plutonium pits and dedicate sufficient resources to the missions of cleanup and environmental restoration. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. So we're going to turn to online. First is Cassandra Freelix. So please unmute yourself and introduce yourself, and then we will start your comments.
Yes, my name is Cassandra Freelix. That's Cassandra. Last name Fralix. I have spent a long time, decades, speaking to those in power about the horror of nuclear weapons use and the environmental problems that these weapons and their development create. I have watched decade after decade as promises made to workers and communities around nuclear sites did not hold. I've heard individuals speak of the travesty that they have experienced around these, especially Savannah River Site. I have nothing against those who work in the industry. I'm here because I want to say something simpler. I want to say that this PEIS is a remedy, not a precaution. A federal court found the government was building a nuclear weapons production facility for years, spending billions of dollars without performing the environmental analysis the law requires. This is not a technicality. That is the government deciding that its own schedule mattered more than our right to be heard. The workers at Rocky Flats, which I have heard speak personally right there in Augusta, were told the same things. Workers here are being told today, and that is that it is safe, that it is necessary, that it is managed. The FBI and the EPA raided that facility in 1989, shut it down permanently. Workers carried the health consequences for the rest of their lives, and the community carries the contamination. The Savannah River Site already holds more radioactive waste than any other Department of Energy site in this country. More waste than any other site in this country. The state of South Carolina has called that waste the single greatest environmental threat in the state. And rather than making cleanup the priority, here we are discussing adding plutonium manufacturing to that burden. Independent scientists have concluded there is no demonstrated need for new pits to maintain our existing nuclear arsenal. These pits are for new weapons. That is an escalation, not maintenance. The people there in Aiken and Augusta who want to support our country and protection must understand that this is an acceleration, that this is not something that will be beneficial.
If you could
I'm
wrap up,
asking,
please.
yes, I'm asking that we treat this review as what the court intended it to be, a reconsideration, not a formality. And I want to raise one issue. I haven't
Yeah,
heard anyone
I'm going to
discuss
need you to wrap
the
up.
earthquake. The earthquake. We have had lots of earthquakes, seismic uh, issues here in
Please,
Lexington.
Ms. Freilich. Ms.
Yes.
Freilich, we have a lot of people in the room here, and we're trying to get everybody to speak by 8 p.m., so I'm going to need to ask you to wrap up.
Okay, well, thank you so much. It remains dangerous for thousands of years, and there won't be people that will understand the horrors that we have created. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And for you and anybody else going forward that I need to ask to wrap up, again, we encourage you to submit comments, written comments. You can get the totality of your thoughts considered as part of the review. Next online, it is, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Tayyaba Sadig, please. And then after Tayyaba, we're going to have Stephen Wingreier, also online.
Thank you. My name is Tayyaba Sadek, and I am a software developer, and I've lived in South Carolina for 25 years. And as a developer and a concerned neighbor, I'm here to warn against what is being proposed for our community as well as our country. And what worries me so much is not just the cost of those plutonium pits, it is the convergence. We're expanding our nuclear arsenal at the same time that we are racing to build artificial intelligence into our military decision making. And as someone who works in technology and whose friends' children have been killed by the likes of Project Lavender and Where's Daddy, I can tell you AI systems cause weapons to enact atrocities. They generate thousands of targets an hour, making it impossible for humans to truly provide the oversight that is needed. And they fail in unexpected ways. They misread data. They escalate faster than any human can intervene. And researchers at SPIRI and Armed Control Association, they've documented that AI integrated into early warning and command systems compresses the window for strategic deliberation. So we're building more triggers at the same time that we're removing the human hand from that trigger. And the Arms Control Association has warned that in crisis conditions, speed itself becomes dangerous. And these two new pits are not for defense. You talked about non-proliferation. These are for entirely new warhead designs that have never been tested. So that either means we will have no confidence in these weapons, or it puts pressure on us to resume nuclear testing for the first time in decades. And every path makes the world less safe and devastates our environment. Russia and China have already said that nuclear testing by the United States will cause them to, quote, act accordingly. And the cost should shock all of us, of course. That's tax money literally taken from food of our neighbors or hospitals for our communities. Again, those are true, beneficial, highly skilled jobs. And I need this agency to stop expanded pit production and to redirect those resources towards cleanup, towards diplomacy, and towards the future that our children deserve. I need NNSA to include a true no-action alternative where no new pits are made in the final PEIS. And we as people, we know this, we're capable of extraordinary things. So let's stop destroying today and build that future instead. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to go to online Stephen Wingeier. Stephen, it looks like you're still muted. Is that correct? Is he number one? Is he? Okay. Stephen. Stephen, we cannot hear you if you are speaking. Okay. Stephen, I'm gonna call on a few people in the room, and then I'll go back to you. You have not lost your spot. So in the room, the next three are Jay Coughlin, Leslie Minor, thank you. I apologize. I wasn't sure that was a D or an A, and Donald Moniak. So Jay, please.
I'm Jay Coughlin with Nuclear Watch New Mexico, and that's Jay and Coghlan. So the clock is running now. With Tom, I'm one of the plaintiffs that made a programmatic environmental impact statement happen. And I want to do my duty and salute the South Carolina Environmental Law Project who successfully represented us. We could not have done it without them. So our lawsuit is actually a third-generation lawsuit that began in the 1980s. And I say this in part to illustrate that this is a long, long battle. And at that time, a federal court ordered the Department of Energy to complete a PEIS on its post-Cold War nuclear weapons complex. So wouldn't you know it, DOE just ignored that court order, so we sued them again in the 1990s. And after that, the National Nuclear Security Administration tried 4 different times to sanction pit production through various processes under the National Environmental Policy Act. We beat them each of those 4 times. This is a unsung story of successful citizen activism that nobody knows about. But this 5th time is now the most serious, the most important time. However, in my view, what the NNSA learned was to ignore NEPA, so we busted them. This draft PEIS is pretty poor, in my view. Here's my partial list on what should be addressed and fixed. And this is the main point I like to emphasize. No future pit production is to maintain the safety and reliability of the existing stockpile. And when you hear all these patriotic messages from Chamber of Commerce's, et cetera, the jobs, et cetera, the bottom underpinning fact, I repeat, no future pit production is to maintain the safety and reliability of the existing stockpile. It is all for new designs that can't be tested. Thereby, that could degrade national security instead of enhancing it, or it could prompt the U.S. to resume nuclear weapons testing, after which all proliferation hell would break out, again degrading national security. There are, in fact, already 15,000 existing pits, at least, stored at NNSA's. I gotta laugh. It took me 8 years to sue DOE, NNSA, and now I got 30 seconds. So I could go on and on and on. I can, at times, be succinct, which is out of character, but you can find my argument in this fact sheet down at the very end. I should have mentioned I'm from Santa Fe, but I very much wanted to come out here and demonstrate solidarity with all of you who want to question the pit production program here. I'm just going to close by observing, by my calculations, which I think are pretty solid, The pit plant at SRS will be the most expensive building in U.S. history. Once you include around $7 to $8 billion in sunk costs for the failed MOX facility. So think about that and exactly what is the most expensive building in U.S. history going to do for you. So anyway, you local people, please feel free to approach me. This is my job to help you be active.
Leslie, and then Donald Moniak.
Oh, my glasses. Yeah. Oh. Hello, my name is Leslie Minard, Leslie-Minerd. Okay, so my understanding is that NNSA's latest scheme is for the DOE to take well-tested, healthy plutonium pits, of which there are thousands, as Jay mentioned, dissolve some of them, make new plutonium pits without proving that spending billions, trillions to redesign our nuclear arsenal will in any way benefit our national security. Logically, such actions would likely do the opposite by creating more homeless nuclear waste. We do have a homeless problem here. By giving away even more countless dollars to defense contractors, potentially instigating the resumption of nuclear testing, and at the same time, starting a new international arms race. I am not the only one seeing the parallels between George Orwell's 1984 and today. The population of Oceania, like ours, was taught war is peace. The enemy's name changes, but there is always an armed adversary attacking us that we must defend ourselves against no matter what the cost. The population is trained to believe that freedom is slavery. We are taught to submit for our safety to the authority of the ruling class, for decision-making and protection from the said foreign enemies. We are taught that ignorance is strength. We are indoctrinated to believe that our bliss is dependent on submitting to the teachings of the authorities, instead of examining facts, history, and alternative viewpoints, if you can find them. This plan was ignited during the Obama administration and has been embraced by both the Biden and Trump administrations. The leaders of the red and blue team love war because it makes them and their friends lots of money. Those pushing this costly plan metaphorically wrap themselves in the U.S. flag to justify their continued raid on the Treasury, which is, in my opinion, way more outrageous than Abby Hoffman wearing a U.S. flag to the U.S. House Un-American Activities Committee, for which he was arrested. I think there's some other people that maybe, okay, never mind. Okay, so people on the left and the right and in between are tired of all the career politicians who, some with no term limits, I guess death is their term limit, who put the wants of the military oligarchy before the wants and needs of the people of this country. They are angry that our government is being controlled by the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned us of. Tired of our tax dollars being spent and wasted on forever wars and forever weapons production. Plus, they are tired of and are no longer fooled by all the rampant fake patriotism. Instead of throwing fuel on the smoldering flame of a potential World War III, the DOE should instead do something really patriotic by not burning through even more of our money and instead maintain our existing, well-tested nuclear weapons stockpile and clean up the radioactive waste at the many sites around the country. This is a jobs program we should all get behind. Thank you.
Next up is Donald Moniak, followed by Mary Olson, and then Barbie Preston Church.
Good evening. My name is Donald Moniak. I'm a citizen of Aiken County. These are my preliminary comments on the pit production PEIS. 28 years ago, Senator Strom Thurmond wrote to the Department of Energy that plutonium is not for amateurs. Since that time, more than 12,000 SRS workers have received compensation for their occupational exposure in the 20th century. And since that time, the nature of plutonium has not changed. It remains highly toxic, subject to fires, and chemically difficult and challenging. It was once described by one Los Alamos scientist as a physicist's dream and an engineer's nightmare. This accounts for the expense of the project. Existing plutonium workers at SRS are not amateurs, but a PU pit workforce will be composed of rookies in the fields of plutonium foundry and machining. And they will be trained by Los Alamos experts that have failed to get much beyond the rookie stages, as the expertise from the Rocky Flats era has faded. DOE fails to specifically address the unique hazards inherent in plutonium foundry work and machining, hazards that would be new to SRS. There's no discussion of difficulties faced during the 3 decades of pit production at Rocky Flats. In this EIS, DOE should explain how the shortcomings in the Rocky Flats conduct of operations will be and must be avoided in pit production operations. Second point I'd like to make is the second failure of this EIS are the oblique references to the true purpose of the program, which is to meet the demands of nuclear warfare planning. There are frequent discussions on the issue of aging, but minimal references to the military demand for more advanced weaponry for the current arms race. Yes, pits are growing older. This has been a concern since the 1990s, but the knowledge gained since that time still only leaves pit aging as a serious enough concern to cast uncertainty on the future of the pit arsenal. If aging provoked urgency, this program would be operational by now. Aging is not an issue of whether the bombs work or not, it is an issue of how well they work during nuclear warfare. I will add that the aging concerns are exacerbated by the fact that pits have not been stored in ideal conditions for the past 3 decades, as promised in the Record of Decisions of 1996. In this EIS, DOE borrows from the Nuclear Posture Review to state that if deterrence fails, then objectives must be met. So what is meant by this? What are the objectives? The obvious answer is nuclear warfare planning and implementation objectives. The sentence should be extended to reflect this reality, stating, then the objectives of nuclear warfare planners must be met. Thank you.
Mary Olson.
And you guys are the NSA people, yeah? Yeah, okay. Okay, I was asking a personal question. My name is Mary Olson, and that is Maryolson. I am the founder and CEO of Generational Radiation Impact Project, but in interest of time, the acronym is GRIP. So, I'm glad to be here tonight. This is a 30-year anniversary for me. I first entered this room in 1996 with the Surplus Plutonium Disposition Program meeting. I don't think it was a EIS yet. I think it was just a public meeting, an opportunity to get to know you here in this area. But this area has not been a stranger to plutonium. Plutonium is a word that everyone in this area knows and understands. But I bothered to drive here tonight to share some news. But before I do that, I need to say to our fine people who are here from NNSA that I'm really very disappointed that you do not have a no-pit alternative. I really think that a NEPA process that claims to have no action should have a true no action. But what I want myself is a third action, because it certainly would take action for our great nation to join half the world in the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons. And I have had a wonderful opportunity to participate in that accord coming into existence. And you may not know about it, but it's only 10 pages long. So look it up, read it, enjoy the fact that there is a growing number of people who are uniting to say, we don't need these things. But my news, I traveled to bring you news about plutonium. I have a friend who's been disregarding the International Commission on Radiological Protection and all the other ones who just take an X-ray and multiply it by a small number to get the number that the maximally exposed individual and any other individual exposed to an internal eating, drinking, breathing in an alpha-emitting substance like plutonium. They take an X-ray and multiply it by 20. That is pure fiction. Fiction, fiction, fiction. And why I'm here to bring you this news is because somebody actually took a scanning electron microscope and is looking at what happens when a hot particle is lodged inside bodies, inside tissues, and emits alpha particles, which is what a plutonium atom does. It emits alpha particles, and then actually applies the same dose calculation that you would for an X-ray, but at the micron level. And through observation, we now have published work that is showing that they're off by 1 million to 10 million times compared to taking an X-ray and multiplying it by 20, which is what's in this supplemental EIS. I'm quite sure if you go way far down, you'll find that the maximally exposed individual, which sounds like maybe only one person is exposed. No, the whole region is going to be exposed because you are new to pits. You don't know that the machining process makes fine particulate, and that fine particulate can build up in the buildings like it did at Rocky Flats. I'm sure they're going to have new systems, but it self-combusts. And fire does not neutralize plutonium. You know this. So as it comes out and becomes respired, I need you to know and understand that your children and your elders and you yourself are off by 1 million times on the evaluation in this SEIS. Please hear me. This is news. It's published. You can ask me for it. I'll send it to you. Thank you.
I'll let you know when your time is near. Okay? That'll be fine. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for being here. My name is Barbie Poston Church, BarbiePostonChurch. I come from a nuclear family. I was born in Aiken, South Carolina. My brother was born in Aiken, South Carolina. My father worked at Savannah River Plant, Los Alamos, Hanford, and met my mother in Tennessee at Oak Ridge. They married there. Mother was already working as a chemist in the war effort to extend gasoline so the planes could fly further to drop their bombs. They came to Aiken. He continued to travel until I was 5 years old, at which point he decided the horse farm that I needed was more important than his travel, and to work for DuPont, who was then running SRS. Later, my brother also worked for SRS. My ex-husband worked for SRS. His father worked for SRS. I am from a nuclear family. One thing that I learned is that strength through power with nuclear is not possible. That's not how this works. It's destruction. My father died in 1991, and we were compensated for his death 5 years later due to his exposure to plutonium. My brother, they call it being crapped up. That's what they call it at the plant. It's not being polluted. It's not being contaminated. They call it being crapped up because that's exactly what it does to your life. My brother was crapped up in one of those glove boxes so badly, they kept him. They took the top layer off of his skin. I've never seen a whiter human in my life. They shaved his body. When he did come home, they kept him. When he did come home, he was sent home with containers. Everything that exited his body went into containers for 3 months. After 3 months, it stopped. He was okay. He was promoted to a supervisory position to compensate him for his injuries. When Westinghouse took over Savannah River Site, he was offered a compensation package to retire early because he was not qualified for a supervisory position. Being crapped up didn't qualify you. So I speak today in opposition to the pit processing facility. We don't need more nuclear weapons. We don't need more death. We don't need more mass bombings like Nagasaki and Hiroshima. That's not what we need. We need peace without nuclear weapons, without the pollution. My God, the pollution at SRS, 33 million gallons. Give me a break. The tanks on the tank farms they talk about are leaking. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you for having me, and thank you all for being here.
Okay, we're going to go back online and we're going to try Stephen Wingeier again. And then after Stephen, Greg Mello, and then Jacqueline Dreschler. Stephen.
Can you hear me?
We can. Wonderful.
All right, thank you very much. I am Stephen Wingeier, Stephenwingeeier, Wingeier. I live in Atlanta. I'm on the board of Nuclear Watch South. Here's my statement. A plutonium pit is the trigger that explodes a nuclear bomb, but a nuclear bomb is in turn the trigger that launches a nuclear war, which in turn is the trigger of a nuclear holocaust, a nuclear winter, and very likely the extinction of human civilization. So we are here not just to discuss the environmental impact of a single production plant, but the potential for total destruction of the environment itself, the world that nurtured the evolution of life over billions of years, and eventually our species, ourselves, and our families. So the environmental impact of a nuclear war is total. Nothing would be left of the environment we know if any of us even remain to witness it. But what is left unspoken in any environmental impact statement is the impact of the environment on us. Discussing the impact of a nuclear war exposes the very concept of the environment as a clever way of deceiving ourselves. We think that if an environmental impact can be localized in a community far from our own, where people lack the political influence to fend it off, or the education, we can remain insulated from this impact ourselves. But contemplating the environmental impact of a nuclear war confronts us with the fact that we too are part of this so-called environment. It's not just a panorama of plant and animal species, hydrological cycles, and geological strata that we study from the windows of a safely separate human domain, but a world that permeates our lives and bodies through the food, water, oxygen, and sunlight that sustain us. The term environment is therefore a metaphor for a delusional separation from reality. But for anyone who doubts that the human and natural worlds are one, a nuclear war would provide the ultimate proof. As human civilization is inseparable from its so-called environment, the natural world is inseparable from the political and economic environment where human history unfolds day by day. And in our current political and economic environment, the risk of a nuclear war triggered by system error, terrorist attack, or deliberate stupidity stands at an all-time high. Building a plant to manufacture triggers for a brand new generation of nuclear weapons will itself trigger a brand new nuclear arms race, launching the risk of nuclear holocaust into high alert. It is this impact on the global political environment above all that demonstrates why the proposal to make plutonium pits at SRS must be scrapped, and why the nation that has led the race for nuclear supremacy since the beginning must now turn instead toward leading a goodwill effort to diffuse international tension and replace nuclear deterrence with a policy of mutual assured diplomacy. If our nation aspires to global leadership, we must lead the way out of the nuclear age to an age of planetary safety and security for all nations, peoples, and species. Thank you very much.
Greg Mello, who is also joining us virtually.
Good evening. My name is Greg Mello. I am the chair of the Los Alamos Study Group in Albuquerque, New Mexico. There's a terrible echo here. We will post these summary oral comments and other written comments that we will submit to NNSA at lasg.org. Please write me if you have any questions. I've come to speak in favor of the SRS single site alternative, or alternatively, the capability-based variant of the multiple site alternative, which is nearly equivalent. This alternative would provide enough flexibility and capacity to fulfill NNSA's mandates, assuming a nuclear arsenal the present size or smaller, at the minimum possible investment, environmental impact, and nuclear production. It would enable the delay of pit production to the maximum amount available in this process. The fiscal year 26 National Defense Authorization Act at Section 3112 requires that LANL have a capability to produce at least 30 pits per year, and SRS the capability to produce at least 50 pits per year. The all LANL alternative is neither legal nor physically possible. LANL alone cannot maintain any realistically foreseeable arsenal, and in addition, it jumpstarts the nuclear arms race that so many speakers this evening have eloquently condemned, as do we, and as we have for the last 35 years. In every alternative NNSA analyzes in this draft EIS, an adequate SRPPF would be built. There are no reasonable production alternatives that do not involve the timely completion and startup of SRPPF. Call me if you have questions. To meet the new legal requirement, SRS production could be kept at the minimum level necessary to demonstrate a 50 pit per year capability. If deemed necessary, production could be expanded. Hopefully it would not be. Hopefully production wouldn't be necessary at all. But that's honestly unlikely. So SRS production beginning no earlier than 2035, 9 years from now, is sufficiently timely to address any pit aging issues that might arise. The single-site alternative, if chosen, would help prevent a nuclear arms race during the coming decade while not foreclosing maintenance of a nuclear arsenal. I assure you, everyone in this audience, Congress is not going to foreclose the maintenance of a nuclear arsenal. It behooves us all to work to prevent a nuclear arms race and to achieve compliance with the NPT, which requires good faith
Greg,
efforts.
I need you to start to wrap up, Greg.
Oh my gosh, okay. To negotiate and then to achieve the elimination of nuclear arsenals. With that, I will conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And then we'll go one more online, Jacqueline Dreschler.
Hello there, can you hear me? Can you
Yes,
hear
we
me?
can.
Okay, my name is Jacqueline Drexler, Jacqueline DRECHSLER, and I'm just a person. I'm not here representing any group. I am here to not support this. Plutonium is known to cause cancer, and it kills. And then you have the bombs. When will it be enough? The United States already has 90 tons of weapons-grade plutonium, already has 600 tons of weapons-grade uranium, has tons of tritium, already has 35 million gallons of high-level liquid waste in underground tanks that leak at the Savannah River Site. The Savannah River Site is listed as the third most polluted waterway in the United States. The pit is to be sited on the banks of the Savannah River, which empties into the Atlantic Ocean. This river must be protected. These waters are the drinking supply for 1 million people downstream of the site. Under NEPA, and I do want to say thank you so much to the South Carolina Environmental Project for this ability through NEPA to make our comments. So this river must be protected, and under NEPA, it must be protected from any further contamination from plutonium pit manufacturing. The UN Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons is still in effect. We must dismantle our remaining 5,000 nuclear weapons, not create more and more waste. The possibility of nuclear war is all over the world. Every facility dedicated to the production of uranium, plutonium, and to nuclear energy production, whether for commercial or for the Navy or the military, for the nuclear arsenal, is a terrorist target. I do not believe this is in the best interest of our country. I do not believe this enhances the health of people or the safety of our nation. NNSA needs to do better, and please listen to Mary Olson. I'm a little concerned because at the bottom of all of the slides, it says peace through atomic strength. So this kind of goes back to that whole thing of George Orwell's 1984. I'd like to end with a little story here. Our family was very close friends with another family. The father was taken away from his work and sent to Los Alamos to work on the Manhattan Project and the bomb. Every couple of months, he was sent home to be with his family. First, his wife died of a horrible cancer. Then a daughter died of a horrible cancer. Then the other daughter got very sick and was in the hospital for many, many months with a horrible cancer. She survived. Then the father died of a most horrible cancer. Then his son died of cancer. The remaining children who grew up, one died of heart disease at a very young age, and one died from being an alcoholic, self-medicating from the trauma of losing his entire family. So I ask again, when will it be enough? We've had enough. And so I just wanted to say also that I understand that the NNSA, is trying to do a good job, but it needs to do better here. I know that many of your colleagues were retired or fired or left, primarily because of DOGE. And
Please wrap up. Please wrap up.
okay, so I appreciate what you're doing, and having this hearing is really what I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to return to the room here. Next up will be Rob McHugh, Allison Hamilton, and Priscilla Preston. So Rob, you're first.
My name is Rob McHugh, R-O-B-M-C-C-U-E. So I'm here as a longtime member of Carolina Peace Resource Center and a lifelong resident of South Carolina. So I live an hour away, and the proposed manufacturing and transport of newly designed and unproven plutonium pits for newly designed 450 untested warheads at the designated Superfund site of Savannah River Site and Los Alamos National Laboratory strikes me as insanely reckless. Plain and simple. We're talking about pure and simple weapons. We're not talking about jobs. Jobs could easily be created by cleaning the mess up. That is a jobs plan. Y'all talking local jobs. Local jobs can exist by cleaning up the mess that has been made. And I understand it's a hard time right now to be in any part of this current regime, this current administration, with cuts happening left and right, and everybody's head on the chopping block, and everybody looking over their shoulder. It's not a great stand and place to be managing such a delicate operation. So I appreciate the complexity of things, but it's always been complex. So the recent wildfires, Hurricane Helene, and the mentioned earthquakes have shown us that environmental catastrophes are on the rise, and these pose additional dangers for the already risky process of plutonium pit production. And in light of these major climate events, tens of billions would be better spent cleaning that mess up. That's already here, and for solutions for clean energy independence. That's the security we need for the planet and for us. The presence of the mismanaged nuclear waste poses health risks to all those in the surrounding areas and environment. SRS is already a designated Superfund site, so it's highly irresponsible, highly reckless to even consider pit production where there's already 10,000 containers of nuclear waste in existence. So, and you propose to add more waste to that. Thank you. So I'll end with this. I come and stand at every door, but no one hears my silent tread. I knock and yet remain unseen, for I am dead, for I am dead. I am only 7, although I died in Hiroshima long ago. I'm 7 now, as I was then. When children die, they do not grow. My hair was scorched by swirling flame. My eyes grew dim. My eyes grew blind. Death came and turned my bones to dust, and that was scattered by the wind. I need no fruit. I need no rice. I need no sweet nor even bread. I ask for nothing for myself, for I am dead. For I am dead. All that I ask is that for peace, you fight today, so that the children of this world may live and grow and laugh and play. By Nazim Hikmet Ran.
Next up is Allison Hamilton.
Good evening. It's ALLISON, I am with Citizens for Nuclear Technology Awareness. So thank you all for being here this evening. It is important that the community have a chance to have a voice on the input, the questions before us tonight. My name is Dr. Allison Hamilton. I am the Executive Director of Citizens for Nuclear Technology Awareness. We are located in Aiken. We represent the CSRA. We are a grassroots nonprofit organization that includes hundreds of community members and businesses. Nuclear technologies relates not only to national security and energy, but to health, the environment as well. CNTA is in this community to educate and advocate for nuclear's safe and effective use. Our organization continues to endorse the plutonium pit production mission at Savannah River Site. Savannah River Site is ideally situated for the pit production mission. For 75 years, SRS operation contractors have set the global standard for nuclear safety and security. SRS has demonstrated the ability to conduct production-scale nuclear operations in a safe, secure, and environmentally responsible manner. Opponents to siting a plutonium processing facility at SRS have indicated environmental concerns and waste management challenges. Waste associated with plutonium production have established disposition paths as either low-level radioactive waste or transuranic waste. No additional high-level waste will be generated at SRS. The experts who continue to ensure the safety of all missions at SRS live in our communities. They are our neighbors. The idea that this project will have dramatic impacts on our community or the environment is simply not realistic. SRS has been the leader in the DOE complex in environmental remediation and waste management. No one can argue with the successes that SRS has achieved in waste treatment and processing. These environmental cleanup efforts will continue under the direction of skilled site workers. SRS is a production facility. It will continue to be a key contributor to the defense of our country through the siting of a new pit production facility. This project is a partnership that will leverage talent from individuals from our own communities. There is no safer place than here at SRS to house this necessary and urgent mission. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Next up, we're going to have Priscilla Preston, followed by Jimmy Henderson, and then Penny Wilgerat. I apologize if I got some of those names wrong.
Hello, my name is Priscilla Preston, Priscilla Thank you for this opportunity to speak out against the production of new plutonium pits. There are multiple reasons for not producing new pits, such as one, the existing stockpile does not need an upgrade because pits have a minimum functionality of about 100 years, and the existing ones are only 43 years old. Two, new plutonium pits would be used for new weapons, such as the W-87 ICBM and the W-93 sub-launched warheads, not existing weapons. Pit production cost would be about $1 billion each year for the next 6 years. There is no safe way to dispose of the radioactive waste. DOE is legally required to remove plutonium from South Carolina, not add plutonium because of pit production. Planned plutonium pit production for the next 50 years violates the 1970 Non-Proliferation Treaty. And the NNSA plans to ship nuclear cores across the length of U.S. interstates without informing residents. And that is my main concern tonight. It's on the risk to the people along the routes where plutonium would be transported. SRS is over 1,200 miles from the Pantex plant in Texas, where the pits will be assembled into new nuclear weapons. With the plans to produce plutonium at SRS, transportation routes will be expanded, especially through crowded metro areas like Atlanta, Memphis, and Oklahoma City, which increases the risk of accidents. The PEIS summary, as you read earlier tonight, states the estimated annual collective doses to the population along these routes would be 22.8 per person REM compared to 0.038 excess LCF, which refers to the cancer fatalities, among all transportation workers, and 0.014 annualized excess LCF in the collective population. This does not sound insignificant. Since I have been involved with speaking out about safety issues related to nuclear power, I assumed that at least the residents could be given iodide tablets, but that doesn't help in the case of plutonium exposure. Once inhaled, as far as I could determine, there is nothing to do to mitigate the health effects. According to the EPA, the emergency preparedness procedure for individuals is to get inside, stay inside, and stay tuned. However, even that minimal information is not provided to those living along the transport route. The bottom line is that there seems to be very little information for the general public about how to respond to plutonium exposure in the event of an accident during transport. Clearly, it is not safe, fiscally responsible, or rational to create new plutonium pits. I am asking that all plans to produce them be stopped immediately.
Next up, Jimmy Henderson, and then Penny Wildegrot.
Hello, I'm Jimmy Henderson. That's Jimmie, Henderson, Henderson. My name is Jimmy Henderson, and I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, about 100 miles from this site. I want to be honest with you about something. I grew up in that city my whole life and had no idea what was happening. No idea that the same government that has never fully reconciled with the transatlantic slave trade, the same trade the United Nations just recognized as the gravest crime against humanity, was quietly expanding nuclear weapons productions in communities that look like mine. That is not an accident, that is a pattern. Historically, Black and brown communities bear the brunt of uranium mining, nuclear testing, and environmental contamination. The Gullah communities along this very river have already paid that price. They did not consent to it, they were not warned, and now instead of remediation, instead of the trust fund for victim assistance that nations like Kazakhstan and Kambati are fighting to establish, this government is expanding plutonium pit production at this site in our backyards. We are talking about manufacturing the core of nuclear warheads, and the people who will live closest to the decision, who will drink from those groundwaters, breathe that air, and raise their children in that shadow are the descendants of the people this country has never prioritized, not once. The bureaucratic system does not weigh our lives in the same way. It never has. What does it weigh? Contracts, production quotas, defense spending, profit dressed up as national security. I am here because I refuse to let that go unnamed. We are calling on this body to halt the expansion of plutonium pit production at the Savannah River Site, to invest in environmental remediation and community health monitoring, and to stop making weapons of mass destruction in communities that have already survived too much mass destruction. I grew up not knowing. A lot of us haven't known. I know now, and I will not be quiet on this matter. Thank you.
So as Penny comes to the podium, after Penny will be Ashley Green-Lamour, and then Hunter Knopfsinger, and then Pete LaBerge.
Good evening. My name is Penny Fujiko Wilgero, first name Penny, surname Willgerodt. My name is Penny Fujiko Wilgero. I direct the Prospect Hill Foundation, which is a family philanthropy based in New York City. For over 40 years, we have had a funding program focused on nuclear arms control and non-proliferation. We are here today joining with scientific experts, local community leaders, and our patriotic colleagues to express our concern and dismay about the plan to resume and scale up the production of plutonium pits. The expansion plan is ill-conceived and completely unnecessary. It has been scientifically proven again and again that we do not need any new pits. We already have 15,000 viable pits in storage at the Pantex plant in Texas. If we are to prevent another Rocky Flats debacle, we cannot begin new pit production here. In 1989, as it was said earlier, the FBI raided and shut down the Rocky Flats plant near Denver. Their investigation found that multiple environmental crimes had been committed, harming the environment, workers, and their families. To this day, long-term radioactive contamination still has not been dealt with. The Savannah River Site is still contending with environmental radioactive pollution that will exist for decades to come. The problem of remediating hazardous waste safely without long-term consequences is extremely difficult, if not impossible. We believe that the NNSA and the Department of Defense should prioritize current environmental cleanup of legacy waste and contamination over the production of new nuclear weapons. One of the NNSA's stated core missions on the website is quote-unquote non-proliferation and arms control. How is new pit production to arm the new warheads, the ICBM W1 and the W93, contributing to arms control? How is that aligned with non-proliferation? This is completely antithetical to the goals of the Global Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, known as the NPT, which was negotiated and signed by the United States over 50 years ago. As a philanthropy, we believe that sustainable citizen activism is critical. We need more public education, more citizen action, more advocacy that unnecessary and exorbitantly expensive pit production here in South Carolina and in New Mexico can be vigorously opposed and shut down. There should be more independent funding available for residents in both locales to understand the long-term and short-term harmful consequences of producing this unnecessary and extremely toxic material. I want to conclude by citing Dylan Spalding's report from almost a year ago, published by the Union of Concerned Scientists. Quote, producing new pits would not only be expensive, time-consuming, and logistically challenging, but is also technically unnecessary and politically destabilizing. There are other ways to improve security without the risks and costs of producing new pits. Thank you.
Ashley and then Hunter.
Thank you. Good evening, guys. Excuse me, my emotions are really going crazy. My name is Ashley Greenlaw Moore, ASHLEY GREENLAW-MOORE. I'm here to represent myself. These are the most uncalled for and absurd pits that we are not needed, plus we don't need any more nuclear bombs. You say that you are familiar with and know enough about plutonium pits. There are secrets you don't want to tell us, that you don't want us to know about. You don't want to tell us. We will know what you're hiding. We know everything that we need to know because it's public knowledge now. And what you have in your so-called diaries, there are fumes and poisons that spread whenever the wind blows. It will not only affect people who work there, it will also affect people who live close by and people who live outside the perimeter. It will get into the lungs, liver, and bones that will cause sickness and cancer. When it rains, the chemicals are held down by groundwater. We don't have to vote for it to be political. I'm not saying that voting is not important. Lost my space, hold on. I'm saying that when we use our voices, we are voting as long as we use our voices loud and strong. You are using our taxpayer dollars. You think we're broke now? Keep this up and we will not be able to afford food, healthcare, doctor visits, and medication. You obviously didn't do enough research that is specific or detailed. Plus you didn't cross all your T's and not dot all of your I's. You don't know enough information about each individual. Our bodies are part of the environment because of the oxygen that is in our bodies. DOE, how dare you? If you allow this to go on, including all of the lies, we are and will stay on you. If you think that we are protesting now, keep this up and we will protest. The protests will grow and get bigger. You will want us to be quiet. That will never happen because our vote and voices matter. Plus our voices will get stronger and louder, where we will be screaming. We are not only pissed off, ticked off, and livid. We are passionate whether you like it or not. The unidentified trucks that are carrying and transporting equipment that has poisonous chemicals that can and will leak. So if you think that making and creating these new pits will help, do your research. Go deeper than you have before. I know I'm about to cry because I'm not just mad. Yeah, I'm mad, but I'm passionate. We don't have to wait to go to the voting booths to vote. We can use our voices to vote, well, as long as they're strong and loud. Regardless whether y'all like it or not, we will never be quiet, regardless of what politics go on, especially with this crazy and absurd administration. Y'all are acting just like it. And Rocky Flats is now.
Ashley, I'm going to have to ask you to close, yeah.
I will. Let me say this last thing. Rocky Flats is now a national wildlife refuge. They're treating those animals like they treat us. They don't give a hoot. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Hunter, followed by Pete, and then Britta Clark. We are doing our best to try to get through by 8 p.m. It's going to be probably a few minutes over. If anybody wants to sort of cut a little bit of time, maybe collectively that'll get us close to 8. So anyway, please, Hunter, please proceed.
Good evening. My name is Hunter Knopfsinger, Hunter Knopfsinger. I'm an organizer at the Union of Concerned Scientists. I'm here today to share a few of my concerns about the draft PEIS for plutonium pit production. The draft PEIS misses a lot of things raised in the scoping period last May, as well as a few bare minimum requirements. First, the PEIS as drafted does not include enough consideration for the impacts of plutonium pit production across other sites such as the Kansas City plant, the Waste Isolation Pilot Plant, the Nevada National Security Site, and Lawrence Livermore National Lab, as is the whole purpose of this programmatic environmental impact statement. The NNSA and DOE must include the full impacts of the plutonium pit program in the final PEIS. Additionally, among many other concerns, I question the decision to move forward with plutonium pit production at the Savannah River Site, considering SRS has been deemed an EPA Superfund site. Plutonium pit production carries danger to human and environmental health no matter where it happens. We know this from our history of plutonium pit production at Rocky Flats, as well as from the current pit production already happening at Los Alamos National Lab. In the time since Los Alamos produced its first diamond stamp pit in December of 2024, there have been several safety issues involving plutonium. One can only expect these safety incidents to become more frequent as production ramps up. As it relates to safety, the draft PEIS as written does not fully consider the impacts for worst-case scenarios such as plutonium fires. The impact radius must be expanded beyond the 50-mile radius in order to accurately account for these worst-case scenarios and the impacts they could have well beyond the region. Environmental impact statements such as this PEIS should include analysis for the cumulative impacts of all industries around the nuclear complex. By only including potential impacts from pit production, the NNSA and DOE are ignoring the possibility of adding additional health burdens to already heavily burdened communities. It is the responsibility of DOE and NNSA in conducting this PEIS to consider the true cost of pit production and any accidents that may come with it. Pit production will only put SRS further behind in environmental cleanup and remediation as a Superfund site, as low-level waste would be buried on-site permanently. The draft PEIS fails to consider other alternatives, and the DOE is instead locking the Savannah River Site into potentially a lifetime of environmental remediation. Cleanup of legacy waste and contamination cannot take a backseat to new weapons production, and could even provide the same job potential if invested in at the same level. The NNSA must consider a true no-action alternative where no new pits are produced. I, among many others, share many more concerns than this that I hope the NNSA truly considers rather than checking a box to say you heard from the community. The NNSA and DOE have a responsibility to ensure the safety of our community members. Under the guise of national security, you are instead putting more people unnecessarily in harm's way. Pit production has no place in South Carolina.
So Pete and then Britta, and then I'm going to take a few online.
It's okay, I'm loud. My name is Pete LaBerge. That's P-E-T-E-L-A capital B-E-R-G-E. And I'm here as a concerned citizen and close neighbor to SRS. I live in Windsor, South Carolina, approximately 3 miles from the northern border of the Savannah River Site. When I was in grade school in the 1950s, I remember ducking under my desk during nuclear bomb tests. Maybe some others of you here also did. This was during the Cold War era, and the specter of nuclear annihilation has haunted me for almost all of my life. As has been mentioned before, in 2021, the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons was adopted and currently has 70 nations as signatories. Unfortunately, none of the 9 nuclear-capable nations have signed or adhered to the treaty. So what are we doing to make the world safe from nuclear destruction? We're about to start building new and more destructive nuclear bombs, which will cause a new nuclear arms race. The world needs nuclear disarmament, not nuclear rearmament. Specific to the PEIS, I have worker safety and worker quality concerns with the PIT project. Does the knowledge and expertise exist at SRS to build a facility which will be safe for workers? History suggests that the answer is no. As has been previously mentioned, the Energy Employees Occupational Compensation Program was established by Congress in the year 2000 to provide medical benefits and compensation to workers or their survivors who became ill from exposure to radiation from working in the nuclear weapons industry. More than 2,600 claims have been filed by former SRS workers, resulting in $833 million of compensation to date. Given this historical incidence of deadly cancers caused by exposure to radiation at SRS, I ask, what is NNSA doing to prevent this within the PIT project? With respect to work quality, how is SRS doing at building things lately? Not so good. Turning swords into plowshares was an admirable idea, but the MOX project turned into a $7 billion failure that was shut down by the DOE in 2018. So why not just try to salvage the building and make plutonium pits in it? Well, fast forward to the headline in the April 25th Aiken Standard. SRNS falls short on progress for the PIT facility. The NNSA said in their 2025 fiscal year performance evaluation, and I quote, SRS underperformed in project execution at the SRPPF. 2 specific examples mentioned are, number 1, and I quote, the planned pre-construction procurement package pushed well past scheduled dates, with minimal work executed in 2025.
Pete, please wrap it up.
Okay. Number 2, SRNS has been negligent in reporting project slips and challenges which preclude the opportunity for leadership to take action to recover the project. I ask that we shut down the plutonium pit project. Thank you.
Britta Clark, please. She left? Okay. We're going to switch to online then. It's going to be, there's 3 people, Leah Yonatan, Frank Pell, and A. Jones in that order. So Leah, please unmute your microphone.
Unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. My name is Leah Yananton, Leah Yananton. Yes, I'd like to know, where's the data for impacts on female health and fertility? Are you keeping track of the increase of miscarriages and birth complications afflicting the regions surrounding the waste streams of Lannel and Savannah River and your other nuclear labs that make components for nuclear weapons? and the mental and physical stress that nuclear weapons spreads across the planet and across generations needs to be accounted for. My late father-in-law, Ted Gillian, was sent as a combat artist to Nagasaki 3 months after the bomb dropped in 1945, and he was haunted for the rest of his life with nightmares of what he saw, and he died young from heart disease, likely due to radioactive exposure while he was there. I think contradictions in your analysis should be acknowledged in the draft PEIS, and to explain confusing math statistics and equations that you used. For example, you stated plutonium. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Plutonium transport accident risk, taking into account the probability of a severe accident, would statistically represent about 1 fatality every 33,000 years. But what about the victims of Hiroshima and Nagasaki? 250 fatalities in 1 second. 250,000 fatalities committed in 1 second. And half were dying instantly or on the first day, and the remainder died slow, painful deaths over the months with excruciating pain from acute radiation syndrome and injuries. Imagine just waking up, making tea in your kitchen, and all of a sudden you're pelted with heat and force, and glass shards from the window shattering on your skin, and your kitchen is gone, and your city is gone, and you're blinking, but your eyelids are melted, your skin is melting off, all the hospitals are gone. Please read the testimonies from the Hibakusha, people who survived the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And your speaker said that noise impacts at Los Alamos would not impact noise at the Savannah River Site. That was a quote, like as if noise made in New Mexico wouldn't be heard in South Carolina. Of course not, but how does that have anything to do with the statistic you're talking about of transporting radiological materials and wastes on the nation's highways? And so the scoping EIS should include all of the communities along those transportation routes, the terrorist attack risk, which increases every day that our country is bombing innocent civilians from Gaza to Lebanon, Iran, Cuba, Syria, Yemen, all these places that our government is bombing. And yeah, pit production modernization means new designs, new nuclear weapons, even stronger than Hiroshima and Nagasaki. New Sentinel W93, main lobbyist is the United Kingdom.
Leah, please wrap up.
Sure. The military's oath is to uphold our Constitution, and in the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson outlined unalienable rights endowed by a creator for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And look where we are now, making new nuclear weapons for the United Kingdom, the King's Navy, at the expense of contamination of American land, rivers, skies, and our bodies for corporate profits. For corporate profits.
Please wrap up. I've got to call on the next set
I'll
of
wrap
people.
up with the Normandy Manifesto for World Peace. Yeah,
Thank you, Leah.
I ask you to look at that.
I encourage you to submit the rest of your comments online portal or through email. Let me move on to Frank Powell.
Hi, I'm Frank Powell, F-R-A-N-K-P-O-W-E-L-L, and I intend to return the bulk of my time to the group. I oppose the United States again building plutonium pits for new nuclear weapons. I summarize this by saying, why can we not see the forest for the trees? The Savannah River Site is huge and represents over 1% of the land area of South Carolina. It's contaminated forever. I just do not understand why those who live near do not see themselves as one big sacrifice zone for humanity. Finally, are not nuclear weapons becoming passé? Because they wreak mass destruction, nobody wants to use them. They're so expensive to make and maintain. Are there not weapons systems on the horizon that will provide devastating and more localized destruction at far less risk and cost? How many attack drones can you build for the cost of one plutonium pit? Thanks to all of you who are speaking eloquently about the ridiculousness of this proposal. Please, for these reasons, please do not resume plutonium pit production. Let's rethink our efforts to improve society and reduce the risk of another war by finding a different course to maintain our safety and independence. Thank you, and may clear heads prevail.
A. Jones. I'm sorry, I do not have a first name on my list here.
Thank you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Thank you. My name is Audrey Jones, AUDREY JONES. I am a lifelong resident of South Carolina, currently serving as chapter coordinator for the South Carolina Sierra Club, a national grassroots membership-based organization. I want to thank you for providing a virtual option for myself and the many others who cannot be there in person. Plutonium, it's one of the most hazardous substances on Earth. When we talk about plutonium pit production, we cannot separate it from the reality of transporting plutonium oxide across our communities. This puts thousands of communities along the transport routes in serious risk. It is not up for debate. Accidents are not hypothetical. And as we gather here this evening, we must confront one critical problem: the lack, and I mean the complete lack of transparency by the National Nuclear Security Administration. We as a public are being asked to accept the risks of a plutonium production facility and the repeated transport of this material, this plutonium oxide dust. Now think about what it means to move this radioactive hazardous material across the southern United States. And we're not talking about one trip. We're talking about repeated shipments over years, possibly decades, traveling by truck, by rail, through towns, past schools, churches, through cities and rural communities alike. This lack of transparency by the NNSA is not just a bureaucratic failure, it is a failure of public trust. And our communities have a right to know what risks we face and how decisions are being made. We know that plutonium oxide is a dangerous, flammable, radioactive dust, and these microscopic particles can lodge in our lungs, poisoning for decades. It's so persistent, it will irradiate surrounding tissue in your body for decades, leading to cancers, other serious health issues, and God knows what else. That's why even a small accidental release poses such a long-term risk. And if it's dangerous enough to remain radioactive in the human body for decades, why are we moving it through our communities at all? No community should be an unknowing corridor for radioactive materials that will harm current residents, pets, wildlife, future generations. I urge the NNSA to do the right thing, provide the public with full transparency for the transportation of this fatal substance throughout the thousands of impacted communities along southern routes. Include all safeguards and detailed plans for emergency management. Without that, we cannot, in good conscience, accept these risks. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to return to the room now. Next three are Mary Howard, Mary Musa Rogers, and Bennett Rogers. So, Mary Howard, please.
My name is Mary Howard. That's MaryHoward. And I thank you for this opportunity here. I'm coming to speak on behalf of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, the Atlanta branch of the U.S. section. I wanted to say that since its inception in 1915, the U.S. section of WILF has advocated for domestic and international issues, bringing issues of concern in the U.S. to WILF International in support of peace and freedom globally. Plutonium pit production is completely contrary to everything that WILF US stands for. Our comment here cannot be other than to stop this, this project and to gradually reduce and eliminate pit production. This PEIS needs to point out the unmitigable danger of this project to humanity and to all life. All industrial activity is threatening the ecosystems along the Savannah River at this point. The area has been declared, as we've already said, a Superfund site, but it's also on the national priorities list. So this is very serious, and any further activity, such as the proposed pit production at the Savannah River Site, will aggravate this threat even more and could cause destruction of the entire ecosystem surrounding the Savannah River Site. Furthermore, what does pit production have to do with the enhancement of the environment? Isn't that what the National Environmental Policy Act stands for? The express purpose of nuclear weapons is to destroy the environment. So what could prevent a common sense understanding that any PEIS for the NNSA's proposed pit production project must be denied? Then there's so much more that just doesn't make any sense at all to me. For one, of course, we've noted that it's in violation of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Toward this goal, we used to have, what, in the 60s, 31,000 nuclear weapons, and now it's been reduced to just a little over 5,000, and it seems like that has been a very positive direction that we should be proud of, and I don't understand why on earth an organization dedicated to nuclear security would want to reverse that trend. I mean, to me, that's just Orwellian, and it's certainly not the appropriate activity of such an organization. So no one I know wants this project. The project is in total opposition to the spirit of the NEPA and the U.S. government commitments under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. The vast majority of UN citizens want coming generations to enjoy life on Earth, and as non-proliferation is a stated goal of the NNSA, as protection of the environment is the purpose of the NEPA, the project must be stopped. No new pits. Continue to reduce our stockpile and eliminate pit production. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello. I'm pretty good at projecting, so I'll try not to stand too close to the mic. My name is Mary Musa Rogers, MaryMussarogers. So hi, I'm Mary Musa Rogers. I'm a doctor of psychology, and my research focuses on prevention and social determinants of health. I'm a member of Aiken Peace, and I live in Graniteville, South Carolina. And this is my first time commenting on environmental issues. So where I live is within a 30-mile radius from Savannah River Site, and I, like many others who have spoken so eloquently before me, have many concerns about the environmental risks and the health risks involved in new plutonium pit production. I am grateful for the opportunity to comment today and to be amongst so many lovely human beings who are doing such excellent work in this area. I, like many others have already said, I'm particularly concerned that the PEIS is missing some key components for thorough risk analysis and putting my family, the family I will raise, hopefully someday, and the citizens of this area at unnecessary risk. Specifically, the risk we are being asked to take on is assuming that there is any evidence that plutonium pit aging is affecting the safety and/or reliability of the nuclear stockpile we already have. As a part of my comment, I am requesting that the NNSA prove with evidence whether this production even needs to happen. That is, that a multi-site plan is necessary beyond a no-action alternative. Second, the PEIS does not fully address planning regarding risk management of accidents related to pit production, specifically related to accidents that might cause radiation drift. We all know the importance of air quality. As somebody who studies the importance and the relationship between morbidity, health morbidity, and mental health, I know very well the outcomes of people who experience things like the Graniteville crash in 2005. So we know that these things have mental health outcomes in addition to having outcomes on our physical health. It is important that we consider all of the factors when we're making this very serious decision. In addition, another one of my major concerns that many other people have brought up is about the potential hazards of transportation. South Carolinians are well aware of our infrastructure issues, as is the entirety of our country. SCDOT themselves has reported that we have had a decline in our road quality over 10 years. It is important that factors like compensation and budget account for some of these factors of SCDOT being able to address our infrastructure concerns. The PEIS must address the risks in transportation of highly radioactive and hazardous material and whether aspects of the budget might be utilized to help speed up road infrastructure. Thank you for your time today, and please consider whether the potential cost of our safety and health is worth new nuclear weaponry that we do not need. Thanks.
And as Bennett comes to the podium here, the next are Pamela Greenlaw, James Mara, and Ayman Fadel. And let me just do a quick time check. It is now 8 p.m. Meeting is supposed to end at 8 p.m. We're going to be able to get the rest of the people, there's a few more on the list, completed by about 8:25. If anybody feels like they want to leave, we will not take offense, but we're going to try to get through everybody here. So I just want to do a time check and let you know where we are process-wise. So please proceed.
Hi, my name is Bennett Rogers, BENNETTROGERS. I'm a resident, citizen, taxpayer, property owner, consumer, depending on who's listening and what it matters to them, of Aiken County. Live in Graniteville, South Carolina. Thank you for being here today, whether it's court ordered or not. Appreciate being here listening, and because I don't want to be adversarial at all. I want to be constructive because we're all in this together. Health, jobs, whatever it is, we're all in this together. But thanks for being here. I could go on about how I am opposed fiscally, ethically, morally for the continued production of atomic weaponry here. And as many have stated, there is lack of evidence from the current stockpile that is, supposedly nearing expiration and danger, from that age. And not to mention the new production would directly conflict with our standing 1970 non-proliferation treaty. But knowing as these things normally go, as just a concerned citizen versus government, military, big business, I'll try to focus on something, a few things more practical. First off, I want to, looking at some of these posters here earlier this evening, there is things mentioned about the acceptable maximum exposure limits and things like that. Since these things have been established 100 years or so, they have exponentially decreased every time we've looked into, what the acceptable amount is. So in the next, by the time that this process is up and running, and in the next 50 years, that was the scope of this study, those acceptable limits will be lower. The impact on the human bodies that are, exposed to these things, that impact will be greater. The numbers in this presentation, they're not scientific fact. They're the knowledge and numbers that we have today. So it's more of a snapshot than a scientific fact. And then past that, World War II, when this, Savannah River Site was first created, Manhattan Project, there was a big rush to get to nuclear weapons. I understand that. The world is different today. We have an existing stockpile. So I do not believe that we are under that big of a rush as we were 80 years ago. And as people, working on the site, I'm sure that they have just as much stress and headaches as all the deadlines and, missed budgets and things like that. I know, working as an engineer in multiple different industries, that there is safety and efficacy that is sacrificed when you're under budgets and under missed deadlines. And so I know that the people working there also want the safe, reasonable deadlines and budgets. I don't think that the current analysis is validating. If we're constantly missing these timelines, then we're constantly not preparing adequately for a process that is very, dangerous. So, as I've heard many times, if you're already late, you might as well do a good job. So I will advocate for a better no-action alternative investigation, but barring that, please just do a better job with planning and safety as far as that's concerned. Thank you.
Pamela Greenlaw, and then James Mara.
Short people. Okay. My name is Pamela Greenlaw, P-A-M-E-L-A, Greenlaw, G-R-E-E-N-L-A-W. I come as an advocate for people who can't get here today, as well as for myself. I'm going to just start right off with recommendations. They're going to be a little repetitious from what we've already heard, but I'll try to speed along. Misleading and redefine terms. Remove all references to pit aging. It's been repeatedly proven to be a non-issue, so take it out. Number two, use proper definitions. No action alternative means you don't pick, you don't choose the alternative. Okay? So a no action alternative means to continue the current mission at SRS and LANL of managing, securing, and storing legacy waste. That's it. Discussing the impacts of future mishaps, new facilities, such as mishandling of materials, fires, improper burial, leaks, and releases. You need to include that. Abandon the notion that New Mexico will allow waste, new weapons materials into WIP. They are already looking at legislation to take only legacy waste, as they always have done, and to exclude new weapons materials. That means your new waste has to stay on site. And you need to put that in the PEIS and account for what's the effects of that, keeping all waste into the future. Include the impacts of new chemicals on the environment would be produced at LANL and accumulated on site. I just said that. All right. Include impacts of the use of the plutonium pits. You've heard that already. The environmental results of detonation from nuclear testing and incidents of horror, effects of misfired nuclear warheads. I think earlier Tayeba Sadiq was trying to tell us about the idea that if a missile goes out of the silo, that might be by human choice or an autonomous system. AI is going to interfere with our control of nuclear weapons. The only way to stop a missile from coming out is to detonate it. Analyze the impact of having to detonate one of the new missiles, because if you continue to let it go to another country, you've started a nuclear war. Thank you. I want to say also that because the half-life of plutonium is 240,000 years, the EIS probably should have a 24,000-year plan to describe the effects on the living environment. Every place that the waste is spilled, released, buried, or stored. And I know you think that sounds ludicrous, but that's what we have. One quick quote. Mother Nature is just chemistry, biology, and physics. That's all she is. You can't sweet talk her. You cannot spin her. You cannot tell her Mother Nature, you're ruining my investment with Bechtel, Fluor, Rockwell, and SNRS. No, she will always be and do only what chemistry and biology and physics dictate. Mother Nature always bats last, and she always bats 1,000.
So, James Mara, then I'm going to grab the final person online, and then we'll do the final 3 people here in the room.
James Mara, the Savannah River Site Heritage Foundation, JAMES MARRA. My name is Dr. James Mara, and I'm the board chair for the SRS Heritage Foundation. We are a nonprofit organization with a mission to preserve and interpret the history of the Savannah River Site. The foundation supports the operation and continued development of this museum. This year commemorates 75 years of the Savannah River Site. The SRS Museum has a special 75th anniversary exhibit that I encourage all to visit. The museum is open to the public and admission is free. Our organization endorses the Savannah River Site for the potential plutonium pit production mission. For the past 75 years, SRS has supported the defense of our nation. The site's tritium mission has continually supported the nuclear deterrent and the Department of Defense from the site's inception. It has never missed a deliverable milestone. For the past 75 years, SRS has served as a production site. SRS routinely conducts production-scale nuclear operations, including plutonium handling and processing. Safety and security are paramount at SRS. No other site in the DOE complex approaches the safety and security record of SRS. Throughout the past 75 years, SRS contractors and its employees have been active community partners in our region. The volunteerism of the site employee is second to none, supporting area educators, local nonprofits, and community organization. The site employees, yes, the employees themselves, have donated more than $100 million in today's dollars to the United Way and similar agencies. The nation's defense relies on a reliable nuclear deterrent. According to several recent nuclear posture reviews completed by the Department of Defense, the nuclear weapons deterrent will require modernization, including the production of new plutonium pits. The Savannah River Site is ideally suited for this mission. On a personal note, I am proud to have worked for more than 1/3 of the site's history and now I'm a retiree. Thank you very much.
So we're going to go online to...
Have you missed my name?
Betsy Rivard.
Have you missed my name?
Excuse me?
Have you left my name out? I'm right trying to find out. I'm here to speak, and my name's Louis Seller.
I do not have you on the list here. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm here.
Are you dialing in by phone?
Let
me go to Betsy. Let me go to Betsy first. Hang on.
All right.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to speak remotely to the programmatic EIS. My name is Betsy Rivard, and I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm on the board of Nuclear Watch South and also a member of WILF Atlanta. And this is the definition that I found online of a PEIS. It analyzes the cumulative environmental effects of the entire program or category of actions and identifies alternatives for the program as a whole. And I really feel like a real no action would be, it should be a choice. I spent the first years of my life in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, moving there shortly after I was born in 1946. My father was a metallurgical engineer, having worked on a nuclear airplane, which thankfully never got off the ground. I have a chemistry degree from the University of Wisconsin. The draft supplemental programmatic EIS is lacking one important thing for me, the no action alternative. I'm happy that almost 5 years ago, the Savannah River Site Watch Group, Tom Clements, Nuclear Watch New Mexico, Gullah Geechee community, and Tri-Valley communities against the radioactive environment, with the help of the South Carolina Law Project, filed a lawsuit and were successful in demanding a PEIS. There is still no definitive evidence that new plutonium pits are needed. There is still no environmentally safe plan for storage of the waste from this project. Lined trenches for low-level waste. No environmental impact study of the actual use of one of the newly renovated nuclear weapons. The history of Rocky Flats has been forgotten. It is very ironic that the MOX facility, which was intended to remove plutonium from weapons, is to morph into a facility that creates new plutonium pits for weapons. This transformation will be a very expensive undertaking and is sure to take a longer time than predicted. We are party to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, are we not? Producing unneeded plutonium pits is in violation of that treaty, which our nation signed onto long ago. There is plenty of work done at the Savannah River Site. Millions of gallons of liquid nuclear waste still sit in tanks close to the river. We need to clean up the waste that was created the last time we processed plutonium. And as my mother used to say, you don't get to cook until you do the dishes. Anyway, that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. So there turns out there's someone on the phone that I cannot see here on my screen. So let me get that person on the phone, and then we'll do the final 3 people in the room. So
me too.
No. We've got I don't. How many people are on the phone? What's that?
Hello, this is Lou.
Okay, please proceed.
Thank you. My name is Louis. Pardon? My name is Louis Zeller. I'm Louiszeller. I am I'm with the Blue Ridge Environmental Defense League, and have worked with Blue Ridge Environmental Defense League most recently as a strategic advisor. But for 28 years, we worked on the Savannah River Site project, doing original research, community organizing, and public education, and working with some organizations in the room here tonight. Under the Non-Proliferation Treaty for nuclear weapons, this project is illegal. 191 states have signed this law. It is federal law as well as international law, and 205 hits made of plutonium over a decade would be over 2,000 weapons, virtually erasing much of the nuclear work over the last several decades. So this is, no matter how you slice it, it is an illegal act. The terms on the website here, plutonium modernization, pit production, modernization, and peace through atomic strength, just indicate that just how illegal it is. There are 3 pillars of the Non-Proliferation Treaty: are non-proliferation of weapons, disarmament of existing weapons, and peaceful use. Each of the parties to the treaty undertakes to pursue negotiations in good faith on effective measures relating to cessation of the nuclear arms race at an early date, and to nuclear disarmament, and on a treaty on general and complete disarmament. I'm from Article 6 of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. I mentioned we do some original work over the years, and that report, for example, Sow the Wind, we will submit with our written comments before the end of the comment period. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so next up are, and I apologize if I get any names wrong, Ayman Fadel, David Matos, and Catherine Flemmery Bruce.
Hello, my name is Ayman Fadel. I am a resident of Columbia County, and I am a member of the Central Savannah River Area Peace Alliance. My name is spelled Ayman, and my last name is F as in Frank, Adel. Our organization calls for disarmament and abolition of nuclear weapons. Some people have said that our existing stockpile is still functional. I pray to God that every nuclear weapon never is, it all goes dud, because we don't need to have more destruction and more pain caused by our wars. We have a government that is spreading videos of their assassination of fishermen in the Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean, and we want to hand these people more nuclear weapons? No, God, no. What we need is disarmament, and we need all human beings with a conscience to do everything in their power, legally and illegally, to stop the functions, to stop the production of new weapons, and new nuclear weapons especially. In addition to this, we have a government that can't put Epstein's collaborators in prison, and you think they're going to protect your health? That's crazy too. We got a government here locally in Richmond County that can't prevent Maxwell House residents from having rain and fleas and mold in their building every time they're, so I mean, we have a government that cannot protect poor people, but we have a government that's willing to just hand out money to all the Chamber of Commerce big welfare queens. I'm sorry, but every time I grew up here listening to politicians telling us that you shouldn't be taking government handouts, you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and yet these chambers of commerce are every day, they will take any government contract, and I don't care if it's to beat their own mothers up. No, what we need is, if we're going to spend a lot of money in this area, let it be on physical therapists, let it be on nurses, let it be on school teachers, let it be on baseball coaches, man. I mean, we don't have enough people playing baseball, right? So that's what the kind of stuff we need, not money for pain, not money for war. Thank you very much.
David, please.
My name is David Matos, D-A-V-I-D-M-A-T-O-S, and tonight I'm speaking as a private citizen, concerned citizen, citizen of Aiken County for over 30 years. I'm concerned about the waste at SRS. The disposition path to the WIP in New Mexico seems overly optimistic. It seems like WIP is oversubscribed from what I've heard, and it may fill up with waste. I do think there is a good danger that it should be considered in the environmental impact statement that we wind up holding the bag of the transuranic waste. I think they need to consider that and what that means for us here, because once we're holding the bag, it's very hard for us to move it elsewhere, and we know that from experience. It's very much a chance that we'll be holding for the long term. I don't think the Savannah River Site in the River Valley is a very suitable place for that waste to be stored long term or dumped. So let's consider that option in the environment, that possibility in the environmental impact statement. I agree with what we've heard, that this is not just new pits, this is new nuclear weapons production and violates the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which is the law of the land. I agree that we do need to consider true no action alternative on this. I'm very curious about this idea of having two different production lines for plutonium pits if they're going to be produced, because that seems wasteful, period. And I don't think it's necessary, but I wouldn't want any plutonium production. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think they've proven that it's necessary for our nuclear weapons that we need to reduce under the Non-Proliferation Treaty instead. But my main point I want to get to is trends are easier to ride in the direction that they're going in, and we're going the way of the Roman Empire with our debt. Let's look at our situation, because we cannot separate the environmental impact from the fiscal situation that we're in and the fiscal environment that we're in. U.S. debt is $30 trillion. It just surpassed our GDP. Our deficit is $1 trillion a year. We're doing $1 trillion in interest payments per year just to manage the existing debt, projected to go up to $2 trillion. Where is this $25 billion, multiple billion dollars to go for? We have a military-industrial complex that is running amok. Eisenhower warned us about this. Eisenhower warned us. He said, every gun that is produced, every warship that is launched, every rocket fired signifies in the final sense a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and not clothed. This is not manna from heaven. This is our taxpayer money. This is our precious taxpayer money, and it's going to get more precious in the coming years as we face a fiscal reckoning in this country. We need to decide how we're going to spend it. Are we going to waste it on nuclear weapons we don't need, or are we going to provide for our own people? Or are we going to provide health care, affordable housing, education, or even at SRS, the environmental cleanup that we really need here of that legacy waste? Those are things that we actually need. So let's choose how we're going to spend our taxpayer money. And for all the Chamber of Commerce and booster types who come up here, I want to recommend that if you want to support something, let's support Medicaid expansion in South Carolina. This doesn't have to do with the impact statement, but if you want to create jobs, you want to help our people.
David, from one day to another, please wrap up.
That's my point. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. And our last speaker, Catherine Fleming Bruce.
Okay, last speaker. Let me see if I can get my phone to do right so I can do right by all of you. Hello, I'm Catherine Fleming Bruce. I am let me spell that, C-A-T-H-E-R-I-N-E, Fleming, 1M hyphen. I'm from Columbia. I'm an activist. I'm an author. I'm a historic preservationist. I'm also a candidate for United States Senate in South Carolina, running against Lindsey Graham. So a number of years ago, I had a chance to visit the Nevada testing site. And a couple of months ago, I went to the nuclear summit that was held by the University of South Carolina and other partners that talked about how excited they were about reopening VC Summer, the nuclear plant, and the nuclear energy revolution. South Carolina is going to be the heart of nuclear production for the United States. And so that made me pay attention, especially when someone said the word missiles in the conversation. It went kind of quickly, but I did hear someone say that. So later on, I attended the press conference organized by the Savannah River Site Watch and other nuclear public interest groups in response to the lawsuit and the tour that they took of SRS. And this entire event is a result of their work. So I do thank you all for what you are doing for the public. And all the people who spoke today, I really appreciate, and it's heartfelt. You know, the folks who spoke from the position of family members who have died, the folks who spoke on behalf of scientists, and also the folks who are speaking as chamber leaders because they're trying to figure out how to support the communities. But my concern is the plaintiff's concern. The need for more public engagement, the need for evaluation and accountability, the need for the concerns about prioritizing generations in the future, the nuclear waste that is still at SRS. And I actually had a chance to go on the tour, on the SRS tour, and they pointed out, you know, these places where the remaining waste that was supposed to go to another state, and it's still here in South Carolina. And there didn't seem to be a plan as to what to do. So I'm concerned about South Carolina becoming a national headquarters for nuclear power development. And I want to make sure that we are looking at every potential issue and problem. And that we are also making sure that we are engaged in peace building. We want to make sure that we're engaged in supporting diplomacy. And when we do that, we will have the safety and security that we need. So thank you again. I'm Catherine Fleming Bruce. All the other comments were far better than mine, but I'm so glad I had the opportunity to come and be with you all. Thank you.
So it's 8:29. It's 8:29. We're going to, it's been a great meeting. I thank you all for attending and for staying late. Again, written comments must be submitted until midnight, July 16th, 2026. Submission by email is preferred, and comments can also be sent by the post office. So on behalf of NNSA and the Department of Energy, thank you for your time and attention, and let the record reflect it's now 8:30 p.m. and the meeting is now closed.